The Hindu Kush Mountains cut through Afghanistan like jagged teeth against a sky so blue it hurt to look at. At 8,500 feet, the air was thin enough to make every breath a deliberate act. September 2021. The American withdrawal was chaos. Helicopters overhead, convoys racing toward Kabul, and somewhere in the valley below, 12 United States Marines who didn't know they were about to die. Kara Sterling pressed her eye to the scope. 17 years old, 5'4", 120 pounds, soaking wet. The M110 SAS rifle weighed almost as much as she did, but her hands were steady. They'd been steady since she was 12 years old, since the first time her father put a rifle in her hands and said, "Breathe, just breathe." "Contact, 200 meters, 11 o'clock. Her voice was barely a whisper into the radio, calm, clinical, like she was reading a grocery list instead of calling out men who wanted to kill Americans. Beside her, Master Sergeant Connor Sterling adjusted his own scope. 40 years old, 22 years in Delta Force, and he'd never been prouder of anyone in his entire life. "I see them, 4 tangos, AKs, moving toward the convoy route." "5, Kara corrected. "1 behind the rocks, spotter." Connor looked again. She was right. She was always right. "Good eye, baby girl." The wind picked up, 22 kilometers per hour, gusting to 30. Connor watched his daughter make calculations that most snipers needed computers for. She was doing it in her head. Windage, elevation, temperature, the Coriolis effect that made bullets drift right in the northern hemisphere. All of it processed in the 3 seconds between one breath and the next. She fired. 847 meters away, a Taliban fighter dropped. The spotter. The one nobody else had seen. The one who would have radioed for reinforcements. "Good kill," Connor said quietly. They'd been on this mountain for 72 hours. No sleep, no hot food, just MREs and water, and the constant vigilance that kept 12 Marines alive in the valley below. The official story would say Connor Sterling was here alone. The unofficial truth was that his daughter had more confirmed kills in the last 3 days than some snipers got in their entire careers. 14 for Kara, 23 for Connor. Together, they were the reason 12 families would see their sons again. "Movement, 3 o'clock, 800 meters. Kara's voice again, still calm, still steady. Connor swung his rifle. 3 fighters. No, 4. They were flanking, trying to get an angle on the Marines' position. Smart, coordinated, dangerous. "I've got left," Connor said. "I've got right." They fired within a second of each other. 2 targets down, but the third one saw the muzzle flash, swung his PKM machine gun toward Connor's position. Kara saw it before her father did, saw the fighter's finger tightening on the trigger, saw the angle, saw the mathematics of death. 1,400 meters, uphill, crosswind, moving target. Her father taught her that some shots were impossible. He also taught her that impossible just meant nobody had done it yet. She fired. The bullet traveled for 3.2 seconds, dropped 68 inches, drifted 11 inches right in the wind, and punched through the machine gunner's chest just as he was about to end Connor Sterling's life. Connor saw the fighter drop, saw the angle of the shot, turned to look at his daughter. Kara was already chambering another round. Like she hadn't just made a shot that would have been legendary if anyone besides the 2 of them ever knew about it. Like she hadn't just saved her father's life. "They'll underestimate you, baby girl," Connor said quietly. The wind carried his words across the rocky outcrop. "Every single time. Let them. And when the moment comes, when everything falls apart and they're out of options, that's when you show them what a Sterling can do." Kara didn't answer. She was scanning for the next threat. Because that's what Sterlings did. They didn't celebrate. They didn't gloat. They just kept their people alive. The sun set over the Hindu Kush. The Marines made it to their extraction point, and nobody except Connor Sterling knew that half the kills that saved them came from a 17-year-old girl who wasn't supposed to be there. The funeral was on a Tuesday. Quantico Marine Base, Virginia, November 2021. The sky was the color of old bruises, threatening rain but never quite delivering. Kara Sterling stood in her black dress, the only dress she owned, and watched them fold her father's flag. 13 folds, each one precise, each one final. The Marine handing her the flag was young, maybe 25. His hands shook slightly as he pressed the triangle of fabric into her arms. On behalf of a grateful nation, Kara stopped hearing the words. She'd heard them before. At her mother's funeral when she was 9, now at her father's. She was 18 years old, and both her parents were gone, and all she had left was a folded flag and a scratched-up mirror her father carried in every deployment. The official story was clean. Master Sergeant Connor Sterling, killed in action, Yemen, providing overwatch for a Marine extraction. Enemy sniper, quick death, honorable service, 22 years, Delta Force, sniper instructor. They made him sound like a hero. They didn't mention that the position he was killed from was marked safe in the intelligence reports. They didn't mention that somebody had fed him bad information. They didn't mention that Connor Sterling spent his last 3 minutes bleeding out on foreign soil, knowing he'd been betrayed. But Kara knew, because Connor Sterling didn't make mistakes, and someone was going to answer for that. "Miss Sterling?" Kara looked up. An old man stood in front of her. Late 60s, maybe 70, graying hair cut military short. He walked with a limp, favoring his left leg. Silver star on his dress uniform. Sergeant Major rank insignia. "Sergeant Major Ernest Blackwell," the man said. He didn't offer to shake hands. Instead, he held out something wrapped in cloth. "Your father wanted you to have these." Kara unwrapped the cloth. Inside was Connor's mirror, the scratched, dented piece of metal he'd carried since Fallujah. And beneath it, a sealed envelope with her name written in her father's handwriting. "You're Ironside," Kara said quietly. "Dad talked about you. Mogadishu, 93. Black Hawk down." Blackwell nodded. "Your father carried me 2 miles with a shattered femur, saved my life, took 3 bullets doing it." He paused. "I trained with him at Paris Island, and I trained you when you were 12. You probably don't remember." Kara remembered. Summer of 2017, Montana. A ranch 40 miles from anywhere. Her father brought her to learn from the best. Sergeant Major Blackwell taught her things that weren't in any manual. Wind reading with a piece of yarn instead of electronics. Breathing techniques that slowed her heart rate to 50 beats per minute. The math that turned bullets into poetry. "The envelope," Blackwell said. "He left instructions. Open it on your 18th birthday." "That's next month," Kara said. "I know." Blackwell's eyes were sad, old. The eyes of a man who'd sent too many friends into the ground. "Miss Sterling, your father knew. He always knew you were special. Not because you're his daughter, because you earned it. Every hour on the range, every calculation, every impossible shot." He straightened, winced at the pain in his leg. "When you open that letter, you're going to have a choice. I can't tell you what to choose. But I can tell you, your father believed in legacy. Not the kind you leave behind, the kind you build in the people who come after you." Then he limped away, and Kara was alone with a folded flag and her father's last words, sealed and waiting. January 2022. Kara's 18th birthday arrived without ceremony. No cake, no candles, just a small apartment in Alexandria, Virginia, and an envelope she'd been staring at for 6 weeks. She opened it at 0600. Military habits died hard. The letter was 2 pages, handwritten. Her father's blocky print that never quite looked like it belonged to someone who could shoot a gnat's wing at 1,000 meters. "Kara, if you're reading this, I didn't come home. I'm sorry. I never wanted to leave you alone. But you're not alone. You never were. Everything I taught you, every hour on the range, every breath control exercise, Every mathematical formula, that's me staying with you. Every shot you take, I'm there. Every impossible situation you face, I'm there. They're going to offer you something, a choice. I can't tell you what it is because I don't know the specifics, but I know it's coming. I put your name forward 2 years ago. Assessment scores don't lie, and yours were unprecedented. 98th percentile at 16. Nobody's ever done that. Take it. Not for revenge. Revenge is a poison that kills the person holding it. Take it for legacy. The world is going to underestimate you. They'll see a girl. They'll see your size. They'll see your age. They won't see the 10,000 hours of training. They won't see the dedication. They won't see the excellence. Let them. Excellence doesn't announce itself. It just exists. It shows up when it matters and gets the job done. No fanfare, no speeches, just results. That's what I taught you. That's what your mother would have wanted for you. And that's what I hope you'll carry forward. Legacy isn't what you take from the enemy, Kara. It's what you give to your people. I love you. Always. Dad. P.S. Check the mirror. Kara turned over the scratched mirror. On the back, engraved in letters so small she'd never noticed them before. Sterling legacy. Excellence doesn't announce itself. He'd known. Somehow her father had known what she would become. The knock on the door came at 06:30. Kara wasn't surprised. She'd been expecting it. She opened the door to find a man in his 50s. Expensive suit, the kind of haircut that cost $300, and eyes that had seen too much to ever look truly relaxed. Miss Sterling, Agent Dashiell Crane, CIA. He showed her credentials. I apologize for the early hour. May I come in? Kara stepped aside. Crane entered, took in the sparse apartment with a single glance. No decorations, no personal touches, just a rifle case in the corner and a photograph of Connor Sterling on the wall. I'll be direct, Crane said. Your father recommended you for a special program 2 years ago. Before he died, his assessment was, he pulled out a tablet, read from it, quote, my daughter possesses abilities I've never seen in 20 years of training snipers. At 16, she outperforms operators with a decade of experience. She thinks 3 moves ahead. She never panics. And she understands that excellence is quiet. End quote. Kara said nothing. Your scores support his assessment, Crane continued. Ballistics comprehension, 99th percentile. Marksmanship, perfect scores on assessments you didn't know you were taking. Psychological profile, stable, mission-focused, capable of extreme compartmentalization. He looked up. Deputy Director Victoria Ashford wants to meet you. Today, if you're interested. What kind of program? Kara asked. The kind that doesn't officially exist. The kind where you do things that matter and nobody ever knows your name. Crane's voice was carefully neutral. The kind your father spent his career doing. Kara looked at her father's letter on the table. Take it, not for revenge. Take it for legacy. When do we leave? She said. CIA headquarters looked like every government building Kara had ever seen. Concrete, security checkpoints, men and women in suits walking with purpose. But beneath the bland exterior was something else. Something sharp and dangerous and utterly without mercy. Deputy Director Victoria Ashford's office was on the 7th floor. Corner office. View of the Potomac. 55 years old, silver hair pulled back tight, a face that gave nothing away, and eyes like a shark that had learned to wear pearls. Miss Sterling, please sit. Ashford's voice was smooth, corporate, the kind of voice that could order someone's death and then ask about your weekend plans without changing tone. I'm very sorry about your father. Connor he was one of the best we had. Kara sat, said nothing. I'll be honest with you, Kara. May I call you Kara? Ashford didn't wait for an answer. Your father believed you could be the most effective sniper in American history, not because you're strong, you're not, physically, not because you're experienced, you're not, but because you think differently. You see angles others miss, and you don't let emotion cloud your judgment. Ashford pulled up something on her computer, turned the screen toward Kara. Satellite imagery, Middle Eastern architecture, desert. 3 American journalists, kidnapped by ISIS, Syria. They're being held in this compound. Our intel says they'll be executed in 72 hours. Ashford's eyes were flat, professional. We're sending in Marine Force reconnaissance, 12 operators, best of the best. But the compound is fortified, long sightlines, multiple defensive positions. They need precision overwatch. You want me to be the sniper, Kara said. I want you to save their lives. Ashford leaned back. The team doesn't know you're coming. They don't know you're 18. They definitely don't know you're Connor Sterling's daughter. You'll be assigned the call sign Phantom 0. Probationary. You prove yourself on this mission, you get promoted to Phantom 1. Full operational status. And if I don't prove myself, then you go back to your apartment and live a normal life. College, career, family, all the things your father never had. Ashford's voice was almost kind. Almost. But we both know you won't do that. You're not built for normal, Kara. None of us are. Kara thought about her father's letter, about Sergeant Major Blackwell limping across a funeral ground, about 72 hours in the Hindu Kush with 12 lives depending on her and her father. When do I leave? She asked. Ashford smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. 6 hours. Agent Crane will handle your logistics. Welcome to the program, Phantom 0. Try not to die. February 2022. The MV-22 Osprey shook like a paint mixer as it flew through Syrian airspace at 200 feet, below radar, running dark. Kara sat in the back, surrounded by 12 United States Marines, who looked at her like she was a lost child who'd wandered onto a military aircraft by mistake. Commander Thaddeus Vaughn sat up front, 42 years old, 20 years in Force Recon, face like weathered leather and eyes that had seen 3 wars. He'd been briefed that a CIA asset would be joining them for precision overwatch. He hadn't been briefed that the asset looked like she should be studying for her SATs. Gunnery Sergeant Boone Callahan sat across from Kara, 38, built like a fire hydrant, scar running from his left eye to his jaw, courtesy of Fallujah, 2004. He was the first to speak. She's 18? Callahan's laugh echoed through the Osprey. Did someone order a babysitter instead of a sniper? The Marines laughed. Rough, masculine, dismissive. The kind of laughter that said, you don't belong here. Kara didn't flinch. Her fingers moved across her rifle scope, making microscopic adjustments. Desert conditions, heat shimmer coefficient, dust particle interference. Her father taught her to calculate these variables before her feet ever touched sand. Her father, 14 months dead. And here she was flying into the same kind of country that killed him. Eyes front, gentlemen. Commander Vaughn's voice cut through the engine noise. Mission brief in 60 seconds. Nobody looked front. They were all still staring at Kara. She kept her focus on the scope. The rifle was an M110 SAS, semi-automatic, 7.62 NATO rounds, 14 pounds. She'd carried heavier grocery bags, but right now, surrounded by men who looked at her like she was a mistake, that rifle was the only friend she had. Permission to speak freely, sir. Callahan didn't bother lowering his voice. Granted. Callahan jerked his thumb toward Kara. What the hell is this? We're going into an ISIS stronghold with a teenager. She looks like she should be at prom, not providing overwatch. More laughter. Kara's jaw tightened, but she didn't look up. Phantom 0 is a CIA asset, Vaughn replied, his voice tight. Orders came from JSOC. She's our precision support for this operation. Precision support? Master Sergeant Flint Grayson leaned forward. 44 years old, 20 years as a Marine Scout sniper, face like carved granite. The best shooter in Force Recon, and he knew it. Commander, I've been shooting since before she learned to walk. What's a kid going to do that I can't? That's above my pay grade, Grayson. We follow orders. With respect, sir. Lieutenant Garrett Bridgewater looked up from his tablet. Intelligence officer, 32, bookish, out of place among the trigger pullers. This is a rescue mission. 3 American journalists. ISIS has them in a fortified compound. We're talking 60+ hostiles, maybe more. And Langley sends us, he looked at Kara, her. He said the word like it tasted bad. Kara finally looked up. Her voice was quiet, clear, the kind of quiet that made you lean in to hear it. 87. Silence. Bridgewater frowned. What? 87 hostiles, not 60. Your intel is outdated by 36 hours. ISIS reinforced the compound yesterday. 2 technical vehicles with mounted 50 caliber machine guns, 3 sniper positions on elevated structures, and they've got thermal dampening blankets, so your scopes won't see half of them. The Marines exchanged glances. Grayson snorted. And how would you know that, sweetheart? Did you read it in Teen Vogue? More laughter, louder this time. Kara held his gaze. Her voice didn't change, didn't rise, didn't need to. I know because I've been studying ISIS tactical patterns for 3 years. I know because I reviewed satellite imagery your team hasn't seen yet. And I know because my father died in Yemen 14 months ago. And I've memorized every piece of intelligence about enemy operations in this region since then. The laughter died. Commander Vaughn's head turned sharply. Your father? Master Sergeant Connor Sterling, Delta Force sniper instructor. Kara's voice didn't waver. He was providing overwatch for a Marine extraction in Yemen. The mission was compromised. He held his position for 47 minutes, saving 9 lives, before an enemy sniper found him. The cabin was silent except for the Osprey's engines. Callahan's smirk faded. Connor Sterling was your father? Yes. I knew him. Callahan's voice had changed, softer now, respectful. Trained with him at Paris Island in 2009, he stopped, started again. He was one of the best. He was the best, Kara said. She returned to her scope adjustments. And he trained me. Grayson wasn't convinced. Training's one thing, combat's another. You ever actually shot anyone, little girl? Ever watched a man die through your scope? Kara's hands stopped moving. For a moment, something flickered across her face. Something dark, something old, something that didn't belong on an 18-year-old. That's classified, she said. Classified? Grayson laughed bitterly. We're about to trust our lives to a teenager with classified experience. Outstanding. Commander Vaughn held up his hand. Enough. Grayson, your primary sniper. Phantom Zero is backup and elevated overwatch. She stays behind the main element and engages only on my authorization. Clear? Crystal, sir. Grayson shot Kara a look of pure contempt. Just keep the kid out of my way. Kara said nothing, but in her mind she heard her father's voice. The last thing he told her before his final deployment. They'll underestimate you, Kara, every single time. Let them. And when the moment comes, when everything falls apart and they're out of options, that's when you show them what a Sterling can do. The Osprey banked hard. 2 minutes to insertion, the pilot announced over the intercom. Landing zone is hot. Repeat, LZ is hot. Vaughn stood. Gear check. Final weapons inspection. We're going in fast and loud, people. The journalists are being held in an underground bunker at the center of the compound. Intel says ISIS plans to execute them at sunrise. That gives us 5 hours. Sir, Bridgewater looked up from his tablet, his face pale. I'm getting updated thermal imaging. The numbers don't match our brief. How bad? I'm counting at least 90 heat signatures, maybe more. They're clustered in defensive positions around the compound perimeter. 90? Callahan grabbed the tablet. That's more than double our original estimate. This is a goddamn ambush. We don't abort. Vaughn's voice was steel. Those journalists die if we don't go in. We adapt and overcome. That's what Marines do. Kara stood. The movement drew every eye. She was so small the tactical vest hung loose on her frame. The rifle was nearly as tall as she was. Everything about her screamed wrong, out of place, mistake. But her eyes were steady, calm. The eyes of someone who had already made peace with what was coming. Commander, request permission to establish Overwatch before main element advances. Vaughn studied her. This girl, this child, with her father's rifle and her father's eyes, and something else, something indefinable that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Denied. You stay with the team until we secure a perimeter. Then you can find your position. Sir, with respect. That's an order, Phantom Zero. Kara's jaw tightened. But she was Connor Sterling's daughter, and Sterling's followed orders even when orders were wrong. Yes, sir. The Osprey touched down hard. Sand exploded around the aircraft as the rear ramp dropped. The smell of the desert hit them. Dust and heat and something metallic that might have been fear. Go, go, go! The Marines poured out into darkness. Kara followed, moving with the rear guard, her rifle ready. Even at 2 in the morning, the air was hot enough to taste. And there was something else on the wind, something that made her think of the Hindu Kush, of 72 hours without sleep, of her father's voice saying, "Good kill," after she dropped a target nobody else could see. The team advanced in diamond formation, 400 meters to the compound. Ancient ruins rose from the sand like broken teeth, remnants of some civilization that thought it would last forever. ISIS had fortified it well. Sandbag positions, razor wire, guard towers. Alpha team moved to eastern approach. Vaughn's hand signals were crisp, professional. Bravo team, western flank. Charlie, hold center. Phantom Zero. I know, Kara said quietly. Stay behind. Good girl. The words made her teeth clench, but she said nothing. 3 hours, she thought. Give me 3 hours and you'll never call me that again. They were 200 meters from the compound when Bridgewater's voice crackled through the radio, tight with confusion. Commander, I'm losing thermal signatures. What do you mean, losing? They're disappearing. 1 minute I had 90 plus heat sources. Now I'm showing 40, maybe less. Grayson, positioned 30 meters ahead, laughed quietly over the comm. Told you the kid was seeing ghosts. 40 hostiles. That's manageable. But Kara had stopped moving. Her vision, that freakish 28 vision her father discovered when she was 9, caught what the thermals couldn't. Subtle movements in the shadows. Shapes wrapped in something that blocked their heat signatures. The blankets she'd warned them about. The blankets they'd ignored. Commander, her whisper was urgent. They're still there. They're using thermal camouflage. Your scopes can't see them, but I can. Phantom Zero, hold your position. Sir, listen to me. There are hostiles on the eastern ridge. At least 20. More on the western approach. They're letting us walk into the kill zone. Grayson's voice dripped condescension. Commander, the kid is panicking. Classic first mission jitters. I've got clear sight lines, and I'm telling you, the world exploded. Gunfire erupted from every direction. Tracer rounds streaked through the darkness like angry fireflies. An RPG screamed overhead and detonated against a rock formation, showering Alpha Team with debris and shrapnel. Ambush! Ambush! Contact left! Contact right! They're everywhere! Kara hit the dirt as bullets snapped past her head, so close she felt the heat. All around her, Marines scrambled for cover. The disciplined formation collapsed into chaos. Screaming, gunfire, the wet sound of bullets hitting flesh. She'd been right. They'd walked into exactly what she'd warned them about. And now men were dying because nobody listened to the 18-year-old girl. Grayson, Vaughn was screaming into his radio. I need that machine gun nest neutralized. Eastern Tower. Grayson had set up behind a crumbled wall. His rifle barked once, twice. The rounds went wide. The wind had shifted. He fired again. God damn it, I can't make the shot. The machine gun in the eastern tower poured fire into Bravo team's position. Kara heard screaming. Someone was hit. Man down, Kowalski is hit. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. When everything falls apart and they're out of options. Kara rolled behind a stone column and brought her rifle up. Through the scope, she found the machine gun nest. 847 meters. Wind from the southwest at 22 kilometers per hour, gusting to 35. Heat shimmer creating a mirage effect that made the target appear 6 inches higher than it actually was. She did the calculations in half a second. The adjustments her father had drilled into her through 1,000 practice sessions, through 10,000 hours on ranges from Montana to Quantico to the Hindu Kush. Commander, her voice was ice, request permission to engage. Vaughn was pinned behind a broken wall, bullets chewing the stone inches from his head. His men were dying. Grayson couldn't make the shot. What choice did he have? Phantom Zero, engage. Kara exhaled. Between heartbeats, the world went quiet. Her father's voice whispered, "That's when the world holds still, baby girl. Between heartbeats, that's when heroes are made." She fired. 847 meters away, the machine gunner's head snapped back. He crumpled over his weapon like a puppet with cut strings. Before his body hit the ground, Kara shifted to her second target, a fighter moving to take his place. Second shot, second kill, third shot, a hostile with an RPG aimed at Alpha Team, dead before he could fire. Fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. In 47 seconds, Kara Sterling eliminated 7 ISIS fighters who had the Marines pinned in a crossfire that should have killed them all. The radio exploded with voices. What the hell? Who's shooting? That's Phantom Zero. Grayson stared through his scope at the carnage, his face white. 7 shots, 7 kills. In conditions he couldn't read, at distances he couldn't calculate, by a girl who was probably thinking about prom dresses 3 months ago. For the first time since they'd mocked her, there was no laughter. Phantom Zero. Commander Vaughn's voice came through the radio, different now. Respect had replaced dismissal. Good shooting. You are cleared hot. Repeat, you are weapons free. Kara chambered another round. The rifle was warm against her cheek. The desert wind carried the screams of dying men and the thunder of gunfire. She felt nothing. No fear, no hesitation, no doubt. Just clarity. Pure, crystalline clarity. The kind of clarity her father had when he saved 12 Marines in the Hindu Kush. The kind of clarity that came from 10,000 hours of doing one thing so well that it stopped being a skill and became an extension of your soul. Copy that, Commander, Kara said. Her voice was steady as a heartbeat. I'm just getting started. 847 meters away, another fighter fell. And the Marines who'd called her babysitter started to understand what Connor Sterling had known all along. His daughter wasn't a child playing soldier. She was a weapon, forged in grief, tempered by discipline, and sharper than anything they'd ever seen. The girl they'd laughed at was saving their lives, one impossible shot at a time. Gunnery Sergeant Boone Callahan was bleeding. The round had punched through his vest at an angle, cracking 2 ribs before lodging somewhere in his side. He pressed his hand against the wound and kept shooting because that's what Marines did. But his hands were shaking. Where the hell did they all come from? He had to shout over the gunfire. Private First Class Davis crouched beside him, magazine changes coming faster now. Intel said 40 hostiles. 40! Intel was wrong. Callahan winced as another wave of pain hit. The kid was right. She tried to tell us. The kid. Davis almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. The kid they'd been mocking an hour ago, the teenager they'd treated like a lost child who'd wandered onto their aircraft by mistake. Another RPG streaked overhead. The explosion sent both men diving for cover, ears ringing, dust choking their lungs. Bravo team, report. Commander Vaughn's voice crackled through the radio, tight with stress. "We're pinned down, Commander. 2 wounded. We can't advance." Charlie team, same. They've got overlapping fields of fire. Every time we move, they adjust. Kara heard all of it through her radio. She'd repositioned twice already, moving through the ruins with a speed and silence that surprised even her. The training was taking over now. Muscle memory, instinct, her father's ghost guiding her hands. There, a sniper on the western tower. He was good, patient, waiting for one of the Marines to expose himself. 890 meters. Wind steady at 18 kilometers per hour. She made the calculations in the time it took her heart to beat twice. She fired. The sniper dropped. There, 3 fighters moving to flank Alpha Team. They thought they were hidden behind a collapsed wall. She put rounds through gaps in the stonework. 3 shots, 3 kills. "Phantom 1, this is Bravo lead." Callahan's voice was strained with pain. "I've got hostile movement on my 6. Can't get a visual." Kara swung her scope, found the threat. 4 ISIS fighters circling behind Bravo Team's position, using the darkness and the chaos to get the angle they needed. She didn't hesitate. 4 shots, 2 seconds, 4 bodies hitting the sand. "Holy shit," Callahan's whisper carried across the radio. They're all down." She killed all 4. Master Sergeant Grayson's voice cut in, tight with something that might have been shame. "Commander, I need to reposition. I can't get an angle on the compound entrance." "Negative, Grayson. You're too exposed." "Sir, someone needs to—" "I have it." Kara was already moving. "Commander, I'm advancing to secondary overwatch position, 200 meters closer to the compound. I'll have clear sight lines to the entrance and the underground bunker access." "Phantom 1, that position is in the open. You'll be vulnerable." "I know, but your breach team needs cover, and Grayson can't provide it from his current location." Silence on the radio. Then Vaughn's voice, heavy with reluctance. "Approved, but for God's sake, be careful." Kara ran. Open ground, no cover. Every ISIS fighter in the compound could see her if they looked in the right direction. But she was small, smaller target, faster than they expected. And she knew something they didn't. People rarely looked down when they were looking for threats. They looked at eye level, at adult height. She was 5'4". In the darkness, moving low and fast, she was almost invisible. Bullets kicked up sand around her feet. She zigzagged, changed direction, never following a predictable pattern. Her father's voice. "You're small, baby girl. That's not a weakness. It's camouflage. No one expects the small one to be dangerous." She dove behind a ruined fountain and set up her rifle in one fluid motion. New position, new angles, new targets. Through her scope, she could see the compound entrance clearly now. Heavy steel doors, sandbag reinforcements. And beyond that, somewhere underground, 3 American journalists waiting to die. "Commander, I'm in position. I have eyes on the main entrance. Count 4 guards visible, probably more inside." "Copy that, Phantom 1. All teams prepare to advance on my mark. We breach in 2 minutes." 2 minutes. Kara used the time to study the environment, threat assessment, priority targets, potential complications. That's when she saw him. A man in black standing on the compound roof, watching the battle through binoculars. He wasn't shooting, wasn't taking cover, just observing, like a general watching his troops from a hilltop. The ISIS commander. Kara's crosshairs found his chest. Easy shot, less than 300 meters. Her finger touched the trigger. Take him out, cut off the head, and the body dies. But something stopped her. A memory, a conversation with her father years ago. Summer evening in Montana. Target practice with Sergeant Major Blackwell. Connor cleaning his rifle and talking about Fallujah. Sometimes the obvious shot isn't the right shot, Kara. A dead commander becomes a martyr. A captured commander becomes an intelligence goldmine. Always think 3 moves ahead. She lifted her finger from the trigger. Commander Vaughn, her voice was measured. I have visual on what appears to be the ISIS cell leader. Rooftop position. I can take the shot. Negative. Vaughn understood immediately. We want him alive if possible. Can you track his movement? Yes, sir. Do it. If he tries to escape or threatens the hostages, then you have authorization. Otherwise, we take him breathing. Understood. Kara kept her scope trained on the commander. He seemed calm. Too calm for a man whose operation was falling apart. His fighters were dying. The Marines were advancing. But he just stood there, watching, planning something. What are you thinking? Kara wondered. What don't I see? The answer came 60 seconds later. Commander? Lieutenant Bridgewater's voice was panicked. I'm picking up a radio transmission from inside the compound. They know about the underground bunker. They're moving the hostages. What? Where? Wait. Oh, God. The sound of Bridgewater typing frantically on his tablet. Commander, they're not moving the hostages. They're rigging the bunker with explosives. They're going to blow it and kill everyone inside. Kara's blood went cold. How long? Vaughn's voice was sharp. Based on the chatter, 15 minutes, maybe less. 15 minutes to breach a fortified compound, fight through God knew how many hostiles, locate an underground bunker, and defuse explosives. Impossible. All teams, advance now. Move, move, move. The Marines surged forward, cover fire from multiple positions, controlled chaos. Kara tracked targets through her scope, dropping hostiles before they could engage the advancing Americans. Kill 14, 15, 16. Her count was climbing, but so was her fear. 15 minutes wasn't enough. Not against these numbers. Not with the compound's defenses. The journalists were going to die. Unless... Kara's eyes found the ISIS commander again. He was talking into a radio now, giving orders. Probably coordinating the bunker detonation. If she could get closer, if she could find a position inside the compound perimeter, if she could provide precision support during the breach itself. It was insane, suicidal. Everything her training told her not to do. Snipers stayed at range. Snipers didn't charge into close quarters. She was already moving before she finished the thought. Phantom 1, where are you going? Vaughn's voice was sharp. I didn't authorize repositioning. Commander, your breach team won't make it in time, not with the resistance they're facing. I can provide interior overwatch from the eastern structure. Create enough confusion to give you the opening you need. That's inside the compound. You'll be surrounded. Yes, sir, I know. Phantom 1, Vaughn's voice changed. Not the commander now, something more human, more afraid. Kara, I'm ordering you to hold position. She kept running. Her legs burned, her lungs burned, but she didn't stop. Kara! The radio went silent. Then Callahan's voice, weak but clear. Commander, let her go. What? She's Connor Sterling's daughter, and she's better than any of us. Callahan coughed, the sound wet and painful. If anyone can pull this off, it's her. Vaughn's response was a long time coming. Phantom 1, you have 90 seconds to get into position. After that, we're coming in whether you're ready or not. Don't make me regret this. Kara's legs burned as she sprinted toward the compound wall. She could hear gunfire all around her, screaming, explosions. 90 seconds, plenty of time. She reached the wall and began to climb. The ancient stonework was rough, gaps and handholds everywhere. Above her, the ISIS commander continued giving orders, unaware that death was coming for him on quiet feet. Below her, 12 Marines fought for their lives, unaware that their survival depended on an 18-year-old girl they'd laughed at 3 hours ago. And somewhere in an underground bunker, 3 American journalists prayed for a miracle they didn't know was coming. Kara Sterling pulled herself over the wall and dropped into shadow on the other side. Her rifle banged against her back with each movement. Her boots hit packed earth, and she was moving before the sound faded. Rifle up, eyes scanning. 3 ISIS fighters stood 30 feet away, their backs to her, firing at the advancing Marines. They never heard her coming. 3 shots, 3 bodies. They dropped before any of them knew she was there. Phantom 1 is inside the compound. She kept her voice low. Eastern sector clear, moving to secondary structure. Vaughn's response was clipped. Copy, breach team is 60 seconds out. Give us a path. A path through a compound crawling with terrorists while a bomb ticked down somewhere beneath her feet. Easy, she thought grimly, just like practice, except practice didn't shoot back. She moved along the interior wall, staying in shadow. Her father had taught her to read movement patterns, to predict where enemies would look and when. These fighters were disciplined, but predictable. They expected threats from outside, not inside. Their mistake. 2 more fighters emerged from a doorway. Kara fired before they raised their weapons. Both fell. 2 down, eastern approach. Breach team, you're clear to the main door. She heard the explosion as the Marines blew the compound entrance. Gunfire erupted inside the main building. Shouts in Arabic, screams, the sound of flashbangs in close-quarters combat. We're in, heavy resistance. Bridgewater, where's that bunker? Underground access should be through the central corridor. Look for stairs going down. Kara climbed to the 2nd floor of the eastern structure. Better angles, better sight lines. Through a shattered window, she could see directly into the main building's ground floor. What she saw made her blood freeze. At least 20 ISIS fighters were fortified inside, using concrete barriers and overturned furniture as cover. They had the Marines pinned at the entrance, and behind them, she could see it now. A heavy steel door in the floor, the bunker access. Between the Marines and that door stood an army. Commander, I have eyes on your position. 20+ hostiles between you and the bunker entrance. They're dug in hard. Tell me something I don't know. Vaughn's voice was strained. Gunfire nearly drowned him out. Davis is hit. We can't push through. Kara scanned the interior. The fighters were clustered in groups, using overlapping fields of fire. Classic defensive formation. Impossible to assault without taking heavy casualties. But they had gaps, small ones, spaces between the barriers where a precise shooter could thread a needle, where someone who'd spent 10,000 hours learning to make impossible shots could turn the tide. Commander, I can thin them out, but I need you to draw their attention, make them focus on the entrance. We're already doing that. More, I need them looking your way, not mine. Silence. Then, Grayson, Callahan, suppressive fire. Everything you've got, keep their heads down. The gunfire from the entrance intensified. The ISIS fighters ducked behind their barriers, focused entirely on the threat in front of them. They never saw the threat above. Kara fired. Her first shot took a fighter through the top of his skull as he crouched behind a concrete barrier. The angle was impossible, almost straight down through a 6-inch gap. She shifted, fired again. Another kill. The fighters started to panic. They couldn't see where the shots were coming from. Men were dying around them, and they had no target to shoot back at. Sniper! Sniper! They looked up, looked around, couldn't find her. Kara had already moved to a new window. Different angle, different targets, 3 more shots, 3 more kills. What the hell is happening in there? Callahan's voice was incredulous. They're dropping like flies. Phantom 1 is happening. Vaughn's voice had changed. There was something in it now that hadn't been there before. Something like awe. All teams advance. Push through. The Marines surged forward. The ISIS defensive line, already in chaos, collapsed under the assault. Kara kept shooting. Kill 19, 20, 21. Her rifle clicked empty. Magazine change. 2 seconds. Back on target. Bunker door, I see it, Bridgewater shouted. Commander, we're almost... An explosion rocked the building. Not from outside, from below, from the bunker. What was that? They're detonating charges. They're collapsing the tunnels. Kara's heart stopped. If ISIS destroyed the bunker access while the hostages were still inside. How long? Vaughn screamed. I don't know. Minutes, maybe less. Kara made a decision. Later, she wouldn't be able to explain why. Instinct, training, her father's voice whispering in her ear. She jumped. 15 feet down from the second-floor window. She hit the ground hard, rolled, came up running. Her ankle screamed in protest, but she ignored it. Phantom 1, what are you doing? She didn't answer. There was no time. The bunker door was 50 feet away. Between her and it stood 4 ISIS fighters who had survived the assault. They saw her coming and raised their weapons. Kara shot 2 of them while running. Full sprint. Impossible shots, but she made them anyway. The 3rd fighter got his rifle up. She was too close to use hers, so she didn't. She hit him at full speed, driving her shoulder into his chest. He outweighed her by 100 pounds. It didn't matter. Momentum carried them both into the wall. She heard bones crack, his, not hers, and he went down. The 4th fighter grabbed her from behind, massive arms around her throat, crushing pressure. Kara couldn't breathe, couldn't reach her rifle, couldn't break free. Her vision started to darken. This is how I die, she thought, 3 feet from the door, 3 feet from saving them. Her father's voice. One more time, use everything, Kara. Everything is a weapon. Her hand found the knife on her belt. Standard issue. 7-inch blade. She drove it backward into the fighter's thigh. He screamed and his grip loosened. Just enough. Kara spun, pulled the knife free, opened his throat in one motion. He fell. She stood there, covered in blood that wasn't hers, gasping for air. Her hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. Phantom 1. Vaughn was beside her suddenly, the breach team pouring into the room behind him. Jesus Christ, are you? The door. She pointed with a hand that wouldn't stop trembling. Open the door. Vaughn stared at her for 1 second. This girl, this 18-year-old covered in blood and dust and the residue of violence. Then he nodded. Grayson, blow it. The charges were set and detonated in 10 seconds. The steel door blew inward with a sound like the end of the world. Smoke, dust, the smell of explosives. Go, go, go! The Marines poured down the stairs. Kara followed, her rifle up despite her trembling hands. The bunker was dark, smoke-filled. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. And there, in the center of the room, kneeling with their hands bound, 3 journalists, 2 men and a woman, alive. But they weren't alone. Standing behind them, a detonator in his hand, was a man in black. The ISIS commander Kara had seen on the roof. His face was calm. His thumb rested on the button. Stop! His English was heavily accented but clear. One more step and they die. You die. We all die together. The Marines froze. Kara counted the distance. 20 feet. Too far to rush him before he pressed the button. Too close for a safe shot with hostages in the way. Lower your weapons, the commander smiled. Slowly, or I press this and we meet Allah together. Vaughn's jaw tightened. You press that button, you die too. I am already dead. We are all martyrs here. The only question is how many Americans die with us. Commander, Grayson's voice was barely a whisper. I don't have a shot. The hostages are blocking my angle. I know. Sir, what do we? I said I know. The journalist, the woman, started crying. Silent tears streaming down her face. She knew. She knew she was about to die. That they all were. That ISIS had won. Kara studied the scene. The commander was using the hostages as human shields. He was positioned behind them, only his head and shoulders visible. And his hand. The hand holding the detonator. Impossible shot, she thought. If I miss by an inch, I hit a hostage. If I hit his body instead of his hand, he triggers the bomb as he falls. But if she did nothing, they all died anyway. Commander Vaughn. Her voice was steady, steadier than she felt. I need you to distract him. Vaughn's eyes snapped to her. What? Talk to him. Keep his eyes on you. Give me 3 seconds. Kara, what are you? 3 seconds, sir. Trust me. Vaughn held her gaze. This girl who had killed more men tonight than some Marines killed in their entire careers, who had climbed walls and run through gunfire and fought hand-to-hand with men twice her size, who had done everything right when everyone said she'd do everything wrong. He nodded. Hey. Vaughn stepped forward, hands raised. Let's talk about this. The commander's attention shifted. His eyes focused on Vaughn. You want to negotiate? Fine. What do you want? There is nothing to negotiate. You invaded my country, killed my brothers. Now you pay the price. Your country? I thought you were Syrian. I am a soldier of the caliphate. All Muslim lands are my country. Vaughn kept talking, kept the commander's eyes on him, kept those eyes away from the girl in the shadows who was raising her rifle with hands that no longer trembled. Kara aimed, not at the commander's head, not at his chest, at his hand, at the detonator. A target smaller than a tennis ball, held in a moving grip, partially obscured by shadow. She remembered her father's lesson. Montana, summer evening. Sergeant Major Blackwell teaching her something he called negative space shooting. You can't aim at something that small, Kara. The human eye can't focus that precisely. So you don't aim at the target. You aim at the space around the target, the negative space. And you let your unconscious mind find the center. 20 feet. The commander's hand, the detonator, the space around it. Between heartbeats, her father whispered, "This is the shot that makes you a legend, baby girl. Or it's the shot that kills everyone in this room." No pressure. She fired. The bullet crossed 20 feet in less than 1/10 of a second. It struck the detonator dead center, shattering it into fragments and taking 2 of the commander's fingers with it. He screamed. Grayson moved first. His shot took the commander in the shoulder, spinning him away from the hostages. Bridgewater was second, tackling the man to the ground. Callahan, despite his wound, was third, securing the commander's arms before he could reach for another weapon. It was over. Kara lowered her rifle. Her whole body was shaking now. The adrenaline was fading, and everything hurt. Her ankle, her throat where the fighter had choked her, her hands, her heart. The female journalist was staring at her. You shot the bomb out of his hand." Kara didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. Vaughn approached her slowly, like you might approach a wild animal. "Kara, sir, that shot," he shook his head. "I've been in combat for 22 years. I've never seen anything like that. Never. My father taught me. Your father taught you well." Vaughn's hand was on her shoulder now, steady, grounding. "He was the best, Kara." Her voice cracked slightly. "He would have made that shot too." "Maybe," Vaughn's voice was gentle, "but he's not here. You are. And you just saved 3 lives with an impossible shot." He paused. "No, you saved all of us, my whole team. If that bomb had gone off..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. "Sir," Grayson approached, his face pale. "Commander, we need to move. There could be more fighters in the tunnels, and we've got wounded topside." "Right." Vaughn snapped back into command mode. "Bridgewater, secure the prisoner. Grayson, get the hostages ready for extraction. Callahan, how bad are you hit?" "I'll live, sir. Hurts like hell, but I'll live." "Good. Phantom 1. Kara was already moving toward the stairs. "I'll provide overwatch during extraction. There might be survivors in the compound." "Kara," Vaughn's voice stopped her. She looked back at him. For a moment, she wasn't a CIA asset or a special operator or the girl they'd mocked on the helicopter. She was just an 18-year-old who had done something impossible and didn't quite believe it herself. "Thank you," Vaughn said. She almost smiled. Almost. "You're welcome, Commander." She climbed the stairs alone. The compound was silent now. The gunfire had stopped. Bodies lay everywhere. ISIS fighters who thought they were setting a trap and discovered too late that they were the ones being hunted. 25 of them, she would later learn. 25 confirmed kills, more than some snipers achieved in an entire career. But she wasn't counting. Not yet. She found a position near the compound entrance and set up her rifle, scanning for threats. Her hands had finally stopped shaking. Below, she could hear the Marines gathering, heard the hostages crying with relief, heard someone calling for extraction helicopters. And she heard something else, a voice she recognized. "Hey, Phantom 1. Callahan's voice was weak but warm. "Nice shooting." Kara almost smiled. "Almost. You too, Gunny." "Shit, I couldn't hit a damn thing tonight. Too busy bleeding." He coughed. "Listen, kid, what I said on the bird, calling you a babysitter, forget it." No, I won't forget it. I was wrong, dead wrong. You saved my life tonight. You saved all of us." He paused. "Your old man would be proud." Kara's throat tightened. She thought of her father, of Christmas mornings spent on shooting ranges, of his voice patient and calm, teaching her to read the wind, of the day she learned he was never coming home. He'd say, "I got lucky," she managed. "Luck?" Callahan laughed, then winced in pain. "Kid, luck is finding $20 in your pocket. What you did tonight was something else, something special." The sound of helicopters reached them. Extraction was coming. Kara kept her rifle up, scanning the darkness. Her job wasn't done until every American was safely off the ground. "Callahan," she said quietly. "Yeah? Did you really know my father?" A pause. "I did. Trained with him for 3 months at Paris Island. He was something else. Quiet guy. Never bragged. But when he was on that rifle," Callahan trailed off. "I saw him make a shot once that nobody believed. 1,200 meters in a crosswind. Everyone said it was impossible. He just smiled and said, 'My daughter could do it.' We all laughed. Thought he was exaggerating. Proud father stuff, you know." Kara's eyes burned. "He wasn't exaggerating," Callahan said softly. "He talked about you all the time. His little girl who could outshoot grown men. We thought he was being a typical dad, building you up. But he wasn't. He was just telling the truth." The helicopters touched down. Dust and noise erupted across the compound. Marines moved quickly, loading the wounded and the hostages. Kara held her position until the last man was aboard. Then she shouldered her rifle and walked to the extraction bird. Grayson was waiting at the ramp, the man who had called her sweetheart, who had doubted her at every turn, who had said she should be at prom instead of providing overwatch. He held out his hand. "Phantom 1. Kara looked at his hand, looked at his face, saw something there that hadn't been there before. Not just respect, recognition. The acknowledgement that she wasn't pretending, wasn't playing dress-up, wasn't a teenager with her father's rifle and delusions of competence. She was an operator, full stop. She shook his hand. "Master Sergeant." "I've been shooting for 28 years, Grayson said. His voice was quiet, honest. 28 years. And tonight I learned I still have a lot to learn." He paused. "Welcome to the Brotherhood, Sterling. You earned it." Kara climbed aboard the helicopter, found a seat in the back, away from the others, her rifle across her lap, her father's mirror pressed against her chest in its pocket. As the bird lifted off and Syria fell away beneath them, she allowed herself one small moment, one breath, one memory. Christmas morning 3 years ago, her father handing her a scratched old mirror. "This will save your life someday, sweetheart. And when it does, remember, I'll be with you, always." She touched the pocket where the mirror rested. "You were with me, Dad," she whispered, too quiet for anyone to hear. "Every shot, every breath, you were with me." The helicopter climbed into the night sky, carrying 12 Marines, 3 rescued journalists, 1 captured ISIS commander, and an 18-year-old girl who had just changed everything. Behind them, the compound burned. Ahead of them, a new chapter waited to be written. A chapter with a name that would haunt terrorist networks and intelligence agencies for years to come. Phantom 1. The girl they'd laughed at. The weapon they'd underestimated. The legend that Connor Sterling had forged in 10,000 hours of training and sacrifice. She was just getting started. The Pentagon looked different at night, less imposing, more like a monument to the ghosts who haunted its corridors. Kara Sterling sat in a conference room on the 7th floor, still wearing her tactical gear, still smelling like cordite and desert dust, while 4-star generals decided what to do with an 18-year-old girl who had just broken every record they had. General Marcus Harrison sat across from her, 4 stars on his shoulders, 35 years in the Marines, commander of Joint Special Operations Command, face like weathered granite and eyes that had sent men to die and lived with every single one of those decisions. 25 confirmed kills. Harrison's voice was measured, professional. In a single engagement, the current record was 23, held by a Delta operator with 15 years of experience. He leaned forward. You just broke it at 18, on your first official combat deployment. Kara said nothing. How do you feel? Harrison asked. The question caught her off guard. Nobody had asked her that. Not Agent Crane, not Commander Vaughn. Nobody. Sir? 25 men are dead because of you, Miss Sterling. Some of them probably had families, children. How does that make you feel? Kara thought about the question, really thought about it. She thought about the female journalist's face when she realized she wasn't going to die. About Callahan bleeding out while she shot enemies he couldn't see. About her father's letter and what he'd written about legacy. They were going to kill those journalists, she said finally. They were going to kill the Marines. They made their choice. I made mine. And you can live with that? I can live with saving lives. If that means taking others, she met his eyes. My father taught me that protecting the innocent isn't clean. It isn't pretty, but it's necessary. Harrison nodded slowly. Connor Sterling was a good man, a great operator, but he also understood the cost of what we do. He paused. The question is whether you understand it. I understand that 3 Americans are going home to their families because of what happened tonight. I understand that 12 Marines are alive who might not be. I understand that an ISIS commander is in custody and will provide intelligence that could save hundreds more. Kara's voice hardened. What else is there to understand, sir? Before Harrison could answer, the door opened. Commander Vaughn entered, still in his combat gear, dried blood on his sleeve. General, I need to speak with you. We're in the middle of... It's urgent, sir. Harrison sighed and stood. Wait here, Miss Sterling. They stepped outside. Kara could hear their voices through the door, muffled but intense. You can't just debrief her like a normal asset. Protocol demands. She saved my entire team. Protocol can go to hell. She's 18 years old, Commander. Doesn't matter how old she is. Matters what she did, what she can do. Kara stopped listening. She was too tired, too empty. She waited for the guilt to hit, the horror, the revulsion that surely must come when you killed 25 people in a single night. It didn't come. Instead, she felt hollow, like someone had scooped out her insides and left nothing but muscle memory and exhaustion. Was that normal? Was that what her father felt after missions? She would never be able to ask him. The door opened again. Harrison and Vaughn returned, their faces grim. Change of plans, Harrison said. You're being promoted. Effective immediately, your call sign is Phantom 1. Full operational status, Georgetown University scholarship, cover identity as an international relations student. But when we need you, and we will need you, you'll be available. Kara blinked. That's it? No probation? No evaluation? Miss Sterling, you just proved yourself in ways most operators never do in their entire careers. Harrison's voice softened slightly. Your father once told me something. He said, excellence doesn't announce itself. It just exists. You've proven that tonight. The words hit Kara like a physical blow. Her father's mantra, the thing he'd repeated 1,000 times, the thing she just lived. "Welcome to the most classified program in the Department of Defense," Harrison continued. "Officially, you don't exist. Unofficially, you might be the most valuable asset in this building." He stood and extended his hand. Kara shook it. His grip was firm, respectful. "One more thing." Harrison reached into his pocket and withdrew a challenge coin. Gold, heavy, JSOC insignia on one side. On the other, engraved words, Phantom 1, Syria 2024, 0 American casualties. Kara took the coin. It was warm from Harrison's pocket. She turned it over in her fingers, feeling the weight of what it represented. "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me. You earned it." Harrison moved toward the door. "Agent Crane will handle the logistics. Get some rest, Miss Sterling. You've got classes starting in 3 weeks." He left. So did Vaughn, after squeezing her shoulder once. A gesture that said more than words could. Only Agent Crane remained, standing by the window, looking out at the Potomac. "There's something else," Crane said quietly. "Something Harrison didn't mention because he doesn't know yet." Kara waited. "The ISIS commander you captured, Hassan al-Rashid. He's requesting to speak with you. Specifically you. By name." Kara's blood went cold. How does he know my name? That's what we'd like to find out. 2 days later, Kara sat in a CIA black site somewhere in Virginia. The room was gray concrete, 1 table, 2 chairs, a mirror that was obviously one-way glass, and Hassan al-Rashid, hands cuffed to the table, looking at her with eyes that had seen too much death to fear it anymore. Kara Sterling. Hassan's voice was cultured, almost pleasant. "Daughter of Connor Sterling. The resemblance is striking. You have his eyes. Same focus, same," he searched for the word, "precision. You knew my father. It wasn't a question. I knew of him. We never met, but I watched him once, through a scope. Yemen, 14 months ago." Hassan leaned forward as much as his restraints allowed. He was magnificent, holding his position while his team extracted below. 47 minutes, under constant fire. I had him in my sights for 37 of those minutes. Kara's hands clenched under the table. "Then why didn't you kill him?" "Because your father saved my daughter's life." Hassan's voice changed, softened. "Baghdad, 2015. She was 8 years old, caught in a crossfire between American forces and insurgents. Your father could have left her to die. She was the child of an enemy, but he didn't. He carried her to safety himself. Took a bullet in the shoulder doing it." Kara stared at him. Her father had never mentioned this. Never said a word about saving an enemy's child. "When I saw him in Yemen," Hassan continued, "I thought of her. I thought of the debt I owed. So I watched, and I let someone else pull the trigger." "Someone else?" Kara's voice was ice. "Who?" "Someone American." Hassan held her gaze. "The shot that killed your father came from East Ridge, a position marked as safe in your intelligence reports. Your father was betrayed, Miss Sterling, by his own people." The room tilted slightly. Kara steadied herself against the table. "You're lying." "Am I?" Hassan smiled sadly. "Your father was a legend. 22 years of experience. He knew every angle, every approach. How does a man like that get killed by an enemy sniper? Unless the sniper wasn't where he was supposed to be. Unless someone changed the intelligence reports. Unless..." "Who?" Kara's voice was barely a whisper. "Who killed him?" "Marcus Webb, former CIA, now freelance. Last I heard he was in Washington, D.C. Hassan leaned back. "But Webb was just the trigger. Someone else gave the order. Someone with access to mission planning. Someone who wanted your father dead." "Why?" "That I do not know, but I know this. Your father discovered something. Something important enough to kill him for." Hassan's eyes were serious now, urgent. 2 days before he died, there was chatter on our networks. American intelligence asking questions about something called Project Nightfall. Your father's name was mentioned, and then he was dead. Project Nightfall, Kara committed the words to memory. What is it? I don't know, but I know people are willing to kill to protect it. Hassan studied her face. You look like him, you know. When he was young, before the wars aged him, he would be proud of you. What you did in Syria, that detonator shot, impossible, beautiful, pure sterling. You tried to kill hostages. I tried to die with honor. Hassan's voice was calm. We all choose our deaths, Miss Sterling. I chose to die protecting what I believe. Your father chose to die protecting his men. You chose to live by being better than everyone expected. He smiled. That is the greatest revenge against those who underestimate you. Kara stood. If you're lying about any of this, I am many things, Miss Sterling, but I am not a liar. Hassan's voice followed her to the door. Find Marcus Webb. Find who gave him orders. And when you do, remember, your father believed in justice, not revenge. That's why he saved my daughter. That's why he died a hero. Kara left the interrogation room and found Agent Crane waiting outside. Did you get all that? She asked. Every word. Crane looked troubled. Marcus Webb is real. Former CIA Special Activities. Went private in 2019. Known for extremely precise long-range eliminations. And Miss Sterling, he hesitated. There is a Project Nightfall in the archives. Supposedly shut down 10 years ago. Black budget weapons sales. But if it's still active, then my father found out, and they killed him for it. We don't know that, not for certain. But you believe it, Kara looked at him. Don't you? Crane didn't answer. He didn't have to. 3 months later, Kara Sterling sat in a lecture hall at Georgetown University, taking notes on diplomatic theory while her phone buzzed with an encrypted message from Agent Crane. Another mission, Somalia. 4 American aid workers kidnapped by al-Shabaab militants. She looked around the lecture hall. 200 students who thought the world was papers and midterms and career planning, who had no idea that the quiet girl in the back row had killed 25 men, who didn't know that beneath her backpack was a go bag with everything she needed to disappear in 6 hours. The mission in Somalia was clean, surgical. 4 hostages rescued. Kara put 12 rounds through 12 targets, and the Marines didn't lose a single man. But she found something else, a laptop. Encrypted communications between al-Shabaab and someone using the email address, the Architect 47. Agent Crane's team cracked the encryption in 3 days. The emails were damning. Weapons shipments, target packages, financial transactions totaling $4.7 billion over 10 years. Project Nightfall wasn't shut down. It was thriving. And one email, dated November 2021, made Kara's blood run cold. The Architect approves Sterling termination. Subject discovered financial trail. Webb authorized for elimination. Make it look like enemy action. Nightfall must remain protected. VA. Victoria Ashford, Deputy Director of the CIA. The woman who recruited Kara. The woman who sent her to Syria. The woman who had been using her as a weapon to clean up loose ends. Hassan knew too much. Captured. Webb knew too much. Still loose. And Kara was the perfect tool. Young, capable, completely unaware she was being used to cover up her father's murder. We need to move carefully, Agent Crane said. They were in his car, parked in a lot 3 miles from Langley, away from surveillance, away from Ashford's reach. If Ashford is involved, she has resources, protection. We can't just... I can. Kara's voice was flat. Give me Webb's location. Kara, if you go after him, you'll be doing exactly what she wants. You'll be the weapon she made you into. Then what do you suggest? Crane looked at her. This girl who had killed more enemies than some operators killed in a decade, who had saved more lives than most people ever touched, who was 18 years old and already a legend in circles that didn't officially exist. We do what your father would have done. We build a case. We gather evidence. We expose her. Crane's voice was steady. And when the time comes, we let the law handle it. Because that's what separates us from them. That's what makes us the good guys. Kara thought about her father's letter. Legacy isn't what you take, it's what you give. How long? She asked. 6 months, maybe less if we're lucky. Then we have 6 months. It took 5. 5 months of investigation. 5 months of Agent Crane pulling threads while Kara sat in Georgetown classes and pretended to care about international relations theory. 5 months of building an ironclad case against Deputy Director Victoria Ashford. The evidence was overwhelming. 47 American soldiers dead. 47 missions compromised. 47 families destroyed. All to protect a weapons program that sold American hardware to the same terrorists those soldiers were fighting. Connor Sterling was victim number 47. The first to discover the financial trail. The first to realize that someone in the CIA was profiting from American deaths. The FBI raid happened on a Tuesday morning. Kara was there. Special authorization from General Harrison. She watched through one-way glass as agents tore through Ashford's office. Watched them find the files, the offshore accounts, the communications with Marcus Webb. And she was there when they brought Ashford in, handcuffed, furious, still believing she could talk her way out of it. "You think I'm alone?" Ashford's voice was cold, clinical. "You think I'm the only one? Project Nightfall has roots in the Pentagon, the State Department, the White House. Kill me and 10 others take my place." Kara pulled out her phone, held it up so Ashford could see the screen. A live stream, encrypted military intelligence channels. Every word Ashford had just said was being broadcast to 1,000 people who would never let this die. "I'm not killing you," Kara said quietly. "I'm exposing you. There's a difference." Ashford's face went white. For the first time, she looked afraid. The trial took 3 months. The verdict was unanimous. Victoria Ashford was sentenced to life in federal prison. 47 counts of conspiracy to commit murder. 47 counts of treason, the largest intelligence scandal in American history. Marcus Webb cut a deal. Witness protection in exchange for testimony. He gave them names, dates, evidence. 6 more people arrested, 3 in the Pentagon, 2 in state, 1 in the White House. Project Nightfall was finally, truly dead. In August 2022, Kara Sterling stood in Arlington National Cemetery and watched them pin a Medal of Honor on her father's grave. Posthumous, for extraordinary heroism, for discovering a conspiracy that threatened national security, for dying to protect it. General Harrison presented the medal, but Kara was the one who received it. On behalf of a grateful nation, on behalf of 47 families who finally had the truth, Sergeant Major Ernest Blackwell stood beside her, 70 years old now, walking with a cane, silver star gleaming on his chest. He didn't say anything, just put his hand on her shoulder and squeezed once. That night, Kara opened her father's letter one more time, read the words she'd memorized. Excellence doesn't announce itself, it just exists. Legacy isn't what you take, it's what you give. She knew what she had to do. 18 months later, December 2023, Kara Sterling walked into the Marine Scout Sniper School at Quantico. 20 years old, the youngest chief instructor in Marine Corps history. 24 recruits stood at attention, 19 men, 5 women, ages 19 to 24, all of them looking at her like she was a child playing dress-up in her father's uniform. At ease, Kara's voice carried across the classroom without effort. "My name is Kara Sterling, call sign Phantom 1. I'm 20 years old. Most of you are older than me. All of you are bigger than me. And every single one of you is about to learn why none of that matters." She moved to the whiteboard, picked up a marker, started writing numbers. 800 meters. Bullet drop, 186 inches. That's 15.5 feet. Taller than this classroom ceiling. Taller than a giraffe. She turned to face them. You are not aiming at the target. You are aiming at empty sky above the target and letting gravity pull your bullet down into it. The recruits were listening now, really listening. Wind at 15 miles per hour from 3 o'clock. 11 inches of drift at 800 meters. Width of a dinner plate. Temperature 90 degrees Fahrenheit versus 40 degrees. That's a 50-degree difference. 2 MOA shift. 16 inches at 800 meters. Missed the kill zone entirely. She wrote more numbers. Coriolis effect at 1200 meters. Northern hemisphere, firing east. 2.3 MOA right. That's 28 inches, the width of a small person. One of the recruits raised his hand. Staff Sergeant, 28 years old. Ma'am, with respect, we know the math. That's what the computers are for. Kara smiled. You're right. Any computer can calculate this. But here's what they don't teach you in the manual. It's not about the math. It's about the 10,000 hours that make calculations instinct. It's about breathing, 72 heartbeats per minute at rest, dropping to 54 under stress if you're trained right. She moved to the window, looked out at the range, the Connor Sterling Memorial Range, dedicated 3 months ago. Her father's name carved in granite. My father told me something when I was 10 years old. She turned back to the class. He said, Kara, anyone can learn the formulas. Only the dedicated make them automatic. Only the honorable use them for the right reasons. She wrote on the board in large letters, excellence doesn't announce itself. It just exists. That's what separates a marksman from a legend. Not the shot, the 10,000 hours before the shot, the choice of when to shoot, and the wisdom to teach it right to the next generation. She faced them. That's why we're here. Not to make you killers, to make you protectors. Not to teach you how to take lives, to teach you how to save them. Silence in the classroom. Then one of the female recruits spoke up. Private First Class, 19 years old, 5'2", small. The kind of small that made people assume she couldn't hang. Ma'am, permission to speak? Granted. Some of the male recruits, she hesitated, they say I'm too small, too weak, that I'll never make it. Kara looked at the girl, saw herself 2 years ago, saw every woman who'd ever been told she couldn't, saw her father's eyes looking back at her. What's your name, Private? Ember Lowell, ma'am. Private Lowell, people are going to underestimate you. Every single time. Kara's voice was quiet, strong. Let them. And when the moment comes, when everything falls apart and they're out of options, you show them what you can do. Not with words, with results. She turned to the whole class. Range qualification tomorrow, 1,200 meters, moving targets, crosswind. The same shot my father was famous for. The same shot that saved 12 Marines in Afghanistan. The same shot that every single one of you will learn to make. The next day, Kara stood on the Connor Sterling Memorial Range with 24 recruits and a Montana wind that reminded her of Sergeant Major Blackwell's ranch. 1,200 meters downrange, targets moving left to right, 15-mile-per-hour crosswind. One by one, the recruits took their shots. Some hit, most missed, but they were learning, growing, becoming what her father always said they could be. Then it was Private Ember Lowell's turn, the small girl, the one the male recruits had mocked. She stepped up to the firing line with a rifle almost as tall as she was. You've got this, Private, Kara said quietly. Trust your training. Ember settled into position. Kara watched her breathe, watched her calculate, watched 10,000 hours of future training compress into a single moment. The shot rang out. 1,200 meters away, the target pinged. Center mass. Perfect hit. The male recruits who'd mocked her went silent. Kara smiled, touched the mirror in her pocket. Her father's mirror. The one that had saved her life in Syria. The one that reminded her every day where she came from. Good kill, Private, she said. Your father would be proud. Ember looked confused. Ma'am? Not your father, mine. Kara gestured to the memorial plaque. Every shot you make here, every life you save out there, that's his legacy continuing. Through me, through you, through everyone who learns that excellence doesn't need to announce itself. A vehicle pulled up to the range. Kara turned. Sergeant Major Ernest Blackwell climbed out slowly, leaning heavy on his cane. 70 years old, Silver Star, 3 Purple Hearts. The man who taught her father, the man who taught her. Sergeant Major, Kara walked over. You came. Wouldn't miss it, kid. Blackwell's eyes swept the range, took in the recruits, the targets, the memorial plaque with Connor Sterling's name. Your father would be. His voice cracked slightly. Hell, your father is proud, wherever he is. They stood together, watching the recruits train, watching the next generation learn the lessons that had been passed from Blackwell to Connor to Kara, watching excellence perpetuate itself through dedication and discipline and the quiet knowledge that some things mattered more than glory. You know what the best part is? Blackwell said quietly. It doesn't stop with them. They'll teach others, and those others will teach more. That's how heroes never die, Kara. They live on in every student who remembers their lessons. Kara looked at the memorial plaque, read the words engraved beneath her father's name. Excellence doesn't announce itself. It just exists. Legacy isn't what you take, it's what you give. I gave them your legacy, Dad, she whispered, too quiet for anyone but Blackwell to hear. Every lesson, every value, every impossible standard you held yourself to, I gave it all to them. The sun set over Quantico. The recruits kept training. And somewhere, in whatever place warriors go when their battles are done, Connor Sterling watched his daughter teach and knew that his life meant something beyond the operations he ran and the enemies he killed. It meant that excellence would continue, that honor would persist, that the next generation would be ready when their moment came. Because Kara Sterling wasn't just teaching them how to shoot, she was teaching them how to be the kind of people worth shooting for, the kind of people worth dying to protect. She was teaching them what her father taught her, what Sergeant Major Blackwell taught him, what every great warrior knows but few can articulate. That legacy isn't about monuments or medals or mission counts. It's about the knowledge that passes from one generation to the next. It's about the student who becomes a master and then teaches others. It's about the endless chain of excellence that stretches from past to future, unbroken, unbreakable. That night, Kara sat in her office and wrote in the training journal her father left her, the one with 400 pages of handwritten ballistics notes, the one she'd been adding to for 2 years. She wrote about Private Lowell's shot, about the male recruits who learned that size doesn't equal capability, about Sergeant Major Blackwell's visit and the way his eyes misted when he saw Connor's memorial. And she wrote the final lesson her father never got to teach her, but that she learned anyway. Day 847, December 2023. Taught 24 recruits today. One of them, Private Lowell, reminds me of myself at her age. Small, underestimated, determined. She made the 1,200-meter shot on her second day. Dad, you were right. Excellence doesn't need size or age or permission. It just needs dedication and someone willing to pass it on. I've trained 347 Marines now. 0 friendly casualties under their watch. Not because I made them the best, because you made me the best teacher. That's the real legacy. Not the kills, not the medals, not the missions. The teachers, the students, the endless chain of people trying to be better than they were yesterday. That's how you live forever, Dad. Through everyone you touched, everyone you taught, everyone who carries forward what you gave them. I understand now. Legacy isn't what you take, it's what you give. And I'm going to give them everything you gave me. Every lesson, every value, every impossible standard. Until my last breath. until the chain continues beyond me. That's the promise I make to you. That's the sterling legacy. Excellence that doesn't announce itself. It just exists. And it never, ever dies. She closed the journal, looked at the photograph on her desk, her father in his dress uniform, Sergeant Major Blackwell beside him, taken at Paris Island, 2009. Two warriors at the peak of their powers, not knowing that one day they'd train a girl who would become something neither of them expected. Not just a sniper, not just an operator, but a teacher, a guardian of knowledge, a link in the chain that connected past warriors to future ones. Kara Sterling, 20 years old, chief instructor at the Marine Scout Sniper School, stood and walked to the window. Outside, the Connor Sterling Memorial Range was quiet. The targets were still. The wind had died down. Tomorrow, 24 recruits would return, would learn, would grow, would become the kind of warriors her father believed in, the kind who protected the innocent, who made impossible shots, who understood that excellence was quiet and deadly and absolutely essential. And someday those 24 would teach others, and those others would teach more, and the chain would continue, unbroken, each link forged from dedication and discipline, and the understanding that some things were worth more than personal glory. That was the Sterling legacy. Not 25 kills in Syria, not a Medal of Honor on a grave, not headlines or glory or fame, just the quiet knowledge that somewhere, right now, a Marine was making a shot that would save lives, using techniques Connor Sterling developed, taught to Kara, passed on to hundreds of students, spreading like ripples in water, expanding forever. That was how heroes never died. They lived on in every impossible shot made possible, in every life saved by precision and honor, in every student who remembered their teacher's lessons and passed them forward. Kara touched the mirror in her pocket one last time, felt the engraved words beneath her fingers. Sterling legacy. Excellence doesn't announce itself. "I know, Dad," she whispered to the darkness. "I know." And in the silence of Quantico, with the weight of 347 students behind her and thousands more ahead of her, Kara Sterling understood what her father had known all along. This was the mission that mattered most. Not the operations, not the kills, not the medals or commendations or classified operations that would never see daylight. The teaching, the passing forward, the endless essential work of making sure excellence survived from one generation to the next. That was legacy. That was honor. That was what separated warriors from killers and operators from heroes. And that was what Kara Sterling would spend the rest of her life doing. Teaching, building, forging the next generation of Sterlings who understood that some things didn't need to announce themselves. They just needed to exist and to be passed on forever, unbroken, unstoppable. The Sterling legacy, quiet, deadly, eternal. Excellence that would never die as long as one student remembered to teach the next. That was the promise. That was the mission. That was the end and the beginning all at once. And as Kara Sterling turned off the lights and locked her office, she knew with absolute certainty that her father would be proud. Not of the kills, not of the headlines, not of the legend, of the teacher, of the chain, of the legacy that would outlive them all. That was enough. That was everything. That was what mattered. The rest was just noise.